Are you searching for answers? Discover your true identity. Stay tuned to Shalom World.
He is the one who redeems everyone. He redeems the world. That's when I got the Bible in my hand and read the New Testament. And I realized, this is the guy. This is it. But at the same time, I felt a little frustrated because I thought that I would immediately fall in love. I'm supposed to fall in love with Jesus. You're supposed to love him with all of your heart and all of your soul. And it's kind of like when you meet a person for the first time, do you immediately fall in love with them? You don't. It's a journey. My name is Leslie Messagey, and I live here in Schaumburg, Illinois. I have two beautiful, beautiful daughters, a beautiful husband, and two dogs, and a kitty cat. So I was born in Arlington Heights, actually, and I grew up in Lake Zurich, which is not too far from here. Spent my entire life in Lake Zurich until high school, and then I went off to college at UIC, where I studied biology and psychology and got my bachelor's degree. So I'm a veterinary technician. And initially I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I got a job at an animal hospital trying to get some experience. And I realized that a lot of what the veterinarians do is diagnosing, telling the technicians, go do this, go do that, and a lot of paperwork. And I realized I loved nursing animals. I loved the caring aspect of it. I loved laying next to them when they're waking up from surgery, when they're whimpering and they feel like they're alone, and you lay there next to them and you hold them. That's my thing. I knew that was what I was supposed to be doing. My mom was Jewish. My father was Catholic. And that in and of itself was a really big deal in my family. My grandparents were not, on both sides, were not thrilled about their union. They really wanted my mother to marry a nice Jewish boy, and vice versa for my father, a Catholic girl. They got married, and my mother said, we need to raise these children Jewish. And although my father had a very strict Catholic upbringing, he agreed. There was always this sense of God in my home because both of my parents felt so strongly in both of their faiths. So my mom would always talk about God, and in a very personal way. She would always say, God and I have an understanding. God and I have talked about this. We've decided this together. That was my mom. My dad never really discussed religion a whole lot with me, I think because he was raised Catholic and didn't know a whole lot about the Jewish faith. But he did a wonderful job of doing his duty. You know, he would wear his yarmulke and he would participate in everything, even though it wasn't his religion. I grew up with a deep spiritual sense. I knew that God was there, and I knew he was watching over me. That was about it, though, in the childhood. I didn't really have any certain direction. When I was around 8 years old, my parents divorced. And at that point, all religious aspects of my life kind of ended. I didn't go to Hebrew school like my older sister did. I didn't do any of that. So my mother tried to keep up with some of the traditions after the divorce, but it just kind of fell away. So I never really had that continuing religious education, but there was always God back here. When they divorced, my father was pretty much, I saw him maybe twice a month. So I spent most of my time with my mother, and my mother did not take the divorce very well. I think for me, not only was I feeling abandoned, but I was watching my own mother kind of circling the drain, and that was really hard to watch even at a young age. So I kind of felt like I had to parent my mother, and at the same time, I'm, hoping Daddy will come through the door any moment now, it's gonna be fine, and it wasn't. So it was just this new reality that I had to deal with, that my mother tried to incorporate Jewish traditions with regular Christian traditions. So she would do Hanukkah, but hey, let's get a Christmas tree too. So, and that was very confusing. I thought, well, if there's a God, where are you? Because I'm miserable, I'm unhappy, I'm so sad, and I'm alone. And where are you? I wouldn't say I completely abandoned God, but I certainly turned away. I turned my back, and every once in a while when I needed him, I would turn back and say, hey, I could really use this or that. Sometimes he would come through, sometimes he wouldn't, and then I would turn away again. It was nothing consistent. I never felt like he was there all the time waiting for me. I always felt something was missing, or there's something more, there's something else out there. And I would search for it in various ways, but I think once I became old enough, I started thinking I could do this myself. So I can make my own decisions. I can do all this by myself. If I need God, I'll ask him. I'll just ask him. And that's when, I started making very poor choices, I think. The choices of, trying to be friends with a certain type of person or have a certain kind of boyfriend. Those decisions were, I thought, made with God in mind, but they weren't. They all came from me. And every single one of those decisions were terrible. They were terrible. So throughout my adult life, it was one terrible decision after another, and asking God for help if I thought I needed it. Most of the time I thought I was just fine. I think a lot of it came from my childhood I felt entitled. I felt that I had missed out. I had been, abandoned. Therefore, I deserved this, and that. I desperately wanted people to like me. I was terrified that someone would find faults in anything that I did or would say. And I'm a very self-conscious person, or at least I was a very self-conscious person. I would do and say anything to make someone like me, which turned me into a compulsive liar, and a very good one, a very good liar. And I would lie to the people that were closest to me, family, best friends. I remember, a couple of times I probably stole my friends' boyfriends because it gave me attention, and that's all I craved is attention. And I definitely got in with the wrong kind of people, searching for, this perfect friend or this perfect boyfriend, and I began to have a serious problem with drugs, and I became an alcoholic. And again, all of those things, no problem, I got this. There's no problem here. is at least what I thought at the time. And so that, in combination with, constantly trying to get people to love me, I was just a yes person. I would say whatever I had to say in order to make other people happy, and then turn around and lie about it to someone else. And that all came very easily to me. And I honestly don't know the moment I recognized that this was not a great thing. I just know that at some point I had a huge circle of wonderful people in my life. And then one day I turned around and I had maybe 2 people trickling behind me. And even then, they were barely hanging on. And I didn't understand, why don't they love me? Why are they leaving me? And that was another reason why I was searching, because I knew deep in here, I knew that there was something very good inside of me, clawing its way out, trying so hard to come out, and for whatever reason, it kept getting suppressed. And that's really when I began my journey of what is out there, how I am not this terrible person. I am not this awful human being who's making these terrible decisions. There's something good in me, and I need help. So I tried different religions. I think mostly Judaism. I looked into that. I figured I grew up that way. I might as well try it. And it didn't fit with me. So I kept searching, and my friend had said, let me just take you to this church that I go to. She's like, just see if you like it. I was very apprehensive, and I went. I walked out of there floating. I felt lifted. I felt like I had been spoken to personally. And that was the first time that it ever really happened. Like I said, I felt the presence of God, but this time I felt Him speaking to me, and something was lit. There was some little thing that was lit, and it was amazing. And my friend said, do you have some questions? What would you like to know? I said, I don't know anything. And she said, well, I have a lot of Bibles. Why don't you just take this one? And she handed me a Bible, and I had never opened a Bible in my life. I had no idea what was in it. I knew half of it was the Old Testament, knew nothing about the New Testament. I opened it, and it was something magical. I was drawn to these certain passages that were strictly about Jesus and about how He felt it was so important for people to be baptized. That was all that my eyes were drawn to, and it was a little scary at first because I didn't really know what was happening, but then again, at the same time, so far everything was good. So I just kept on this path, and I kept reading, and I was going to this church with my friend about once a week. They had said, we're having a baptism weekend. And the moment they said that, in my heart, this is what you have to do. This is your next step in your life. It was clear as day, and it was a little scary, but again, I just said, I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna see where it takes me. So I signed up for the baptism. That was probably, getting baptized was as an adult, because I know a lot of people are baptized as babies and they don't remember that experience. Being baptized as an adult is incredible. There's so much power. Baptism with full immersion. I mean, I was coming back up, and you take that breath like you're a newborn baby, and it was beautiful. And I felt like I had started my life over again. It was like I felt I could actually take all of my problems, put them in a little pile, wrap them up, and then put them at the foot of the cross, and then leave them there and walk away. And it's like a breath of fresh air. It's a weight off your shoulders. And all of that started with the baptism. And now at least I had a path to follow. And the way I've been picturing it is my life until I die is me following Jesus. And I visualize just seeing the back of his head as we're going through all of these peaks and valleys. And when I stumble, he's there, he picks me up, and we keep going. And I keep following him. Before, I was following myself, which is a terrible idea. It bothered me because a lot of the indifference came from people who were Catholic or Christian, and they just didn't seem to care, and they didn't share my enthusiasm about it. They didn't understand where it was coming from. I wanted to take a piece of my feelings out and show it to them because it's a feeling that's almost indescribable. When Jesus actually speaks to you and tells you that this is what you need to be doing and that you're doing the right thing. I keep moving forward no matter what they say, and you kill them with kindness. That's the best thing that you can do because, again, that's what Jesus would do. It is. You know, you can be ridiculed for your faith. Any of your beliefs, people can think they're stupid or they're wrong, and they're entitled to that opinion, but at the same time, all I can do is pray for them and hope that they have an experience like I did that can change their views on life. Going through the RCIA program to become Catholic was probably one of the greatest experiences of my life. I got to do so many cool things. I became Catholic officially on the Saturday before Easter, so the Easter Vigil. And that's when I was already baptized, so I didn't have to do that, but I received communion for the first time, which is, you go through this program and they have you go to Mass, and then right before they start doing the liturgy of communion, they excuse you because you can't be a part of it because you're not officially Catholic. And it makes you want that communion so much. You want that Eucharist. When I got it was like fuel for my veins, It's literally Jesus inside you, and it's amazing. And it was a relief. It was a relief that I found the way to be the best person I can, that I've done terrible things to myself and to other people. And yet, if God could forgive me, then, hey, I think there's hope for the rest of the world because he forgave me. And not only did he forgive me, but he kept throwing graces at me. And just all of the sacraments of Catholicism, I think, are a blessing. Like, I had to do my first confession, whereas when I told people that, they were like, oh, that sounds terrifying. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful to go in front of a priest and just blurt everything out, and then to have him say, it's okay, you're forgiven. We are all sinners. We all make mistakes, and we've all done terrible things. And I think a lot of people feel so much shame from that, and so much anger and resentment, and they don't know where to turn, just like I did. I was in a not so good place on a really terrible path. And if you search for it, if you search for the answers, all you have to do is just turn a little bit. Just turn a little bit towards Jesus and just open that window, because when I opened a tiny little crack in the window, he blew it wide open and just showered me with grace and love and kindness and patience. And most of all, forgiveness. Forgiveness for all the things that I had done. And not only was I forgiven, but I was still loved. I was still loved by him.
To all of the viewers of Shalom TV throughout the world, I want to encourage you not only to support this amazing media apostolate, but to spread the word to others. We all know how the internet and mass media are polluting the world with the poison of pornography and so much other forms of materialism. This is the source of eternal life, the gospel, and Shalom TV is consecrated to spreading the word of Christ. Thank you.